Good evening. My name is Dave. Thank you for joining our live interactive telephone town hall. We're hosting tonight's event to give Congresswoman Spanberger the opportunity to hear directly from you and answer your questions about the issues facing Virginia's veterans, their families, and their caregivers. As I mentioned, this event is an interactive forum. Congresswoman Spanberger will be taking as many questions as she possibly can during this event. If you have a question, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time, and you will be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. They'll take down your name and where you're calling from. The next time you hear your name, you will be live on the call, and you will be able to ask your question directly. You can also ask a question by submitting one through the portal below on our online streaming player at spanberger.house.gov. Again, that's spanberger.house.gov/live. If you're watching on Facebook Live tonight and wish to ask the Congresswoman a question, we encourage you to visit that online streaming portal so you can submit your question. Additionally, if you would like to receive updates from our office via email, please press *6 on your phone keypad at any time, and an operator will collect your email address. We could receive a lot of questions during this event, so if we are not able to address your question, please call our office at 202-225-2815 during normal business hours. Again, if you have any questions throughout the event, please press *3 on your keypad or type them below the streaming player. Now, please welcome Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, I'm Abigail Spanberger, and I am so very proud to represent Virginia's 7th District in the U.S. House of Representatives. And tonight we are focusing the discussion on issues that face Virginia's veterans, service members, and military families. So I want to begin by thanking everyone on the line who has served. Thank you for protecting our communities, our Commonwealth, and our country. And to the family of service members, thank you for the sacrifice inherent of your support to your loved one as they have served our country. I want to thank the caregivers who are on the line and the family members who are on the line. Your commitment to your loved ones and often your advocacy to make important reforms on behalf of our nation's veterans have so frequently been vital to the work that has been achieved on Capitol Hill in support of veterans across our country. And in fact, one major result of this advocacy happened just this last year with the signing into law of the bipartisan Honoring Our PAC Act. This law expands VA healthcare eligibility to combat veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and this means that more than 3.5 million veterans with toxic exposures will now have access to care. Additionally, the law adds 23 burn pit and toxic exposure related conditions to the VA's list of service presumptions for service-connected injury. This is an incredibly important step forward that we've taken. I was so proud to vote for this legislation and ultimately to have it go to the president's desk because it makes decades overdue progress to help ensure that our veterans are getting the resources and the support that they need. And it's a decades overdue process of actually fulfilling a promise to veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. Which is also included in the Honoring Our PAC Act. Last year, I was proud to help push this legislation over the finish line because I have heard from so many veterans and their families who have fought for so long for these changes. And it is incredibly important that veterans recognize and understand what's included in this legislation and what benefits are available to them. The men and women of our armed forces put their lives and their health on the line to protect fellow Americans. They deserve our recognition, our appreciation, and our strongest support, but most importantly, they deserve the benefits that they have earned through their service. And in tonight's telephone town hall, we're going to do something special, which we've done from time to time periodically. And for those who are new to the 7th District, once again, I welcome you after redistricting. But periodically, we do veterans-focused town halls, and I bring on guests who can ensure that we're having a fulsome conversation and answering questions in the way that is most helpful to those who are listening in. So tonight we're joined by two guests, and I'm appreciative of all of their commitment to serving veterans across Virginia. We have Ben Shaw, who is himself a veteran, who serves as Central Virginia's Regional Director of the Virginia Veteran and Family Support Program at the Virginia Department of Veteran Services. We're also joined by Dr. John Henry, also a veteran himself, who serves as the Assistant Regional Manager for the Central Virginia region at the Virginia Department of Veteran Services. Both Ben and John have joined our calls and our veterans-focused town halls in the past. I am so grateful that they take the time to join me, and I look forward to joining in them and answering your questions. So before we continue, I do want to remind everyone that my team is here to serve you. If you or a loved one have a specific request or a question about a case at the VA or any other federal agency, please do not hesitate to pick up the phone and call my office 202-225-2815, or you can contact our office online at spanberger.house.gov. And now I'm going to turn it over first to Ben and then to John for a few opening comments before we get into taking questions. So over to you, Ben.
I just want to thank you as always for the invitation. I enjoy doing these, and I welcome an additional opportunity to do so. Hopefully this is one of many to come in the future. So for those listening, I again work for the Virginia Department of Veteran Services, Virginia Veteran and Family Support Program. We do a lot, but I would say that as a program or a service line within the Virginia Department of Veteran Services, our key goal is to serve and support veterans and their families with simply a question about what's out there for me, or I just don't know what I'm entitled to. I don't know what the veteran world holds for me. We serve families and veterans and their families who are struggling to land on their feet post-service and succeed and stay on their feet. For folks whose relationships or marriages are struggling, who perhaps want counseling. We can be a gateway or entry point to a raft of resources, services, and programs that support the veteran and family member community throughout the Commonwealth. We can be your advocates. We've done this stuff for a while. Most of us are veterans or family members of veterans ourselves. We have some personal familiarity with trying to navigate these networks. We'd love to support you and help you get where you need to go as well. And lastly, I'd say that we offer peer support. Again, to the comment that most of us have served in the military, we have many who've served in the military, and it had some ups and some downs, and they're willing to be honest and share what that looked like for them. Specifically, this is what I went through. This was how I succeeded getting through it, and I'd like to help you, ma'am or sir, find your own way navigating through your own stuff. We're all human beings. We know that military service has a lot of perks, a lot of benefits, a lot of blessings, and I'm very glad I did it. We can also lead with some things to figure out. So our veteran peer specialists specifically are highly trained and absolutely personally passionate about this work. And simply lastly, everything we do is both free and a confidential service to any of you. So whether you're in crisis or not, you simply have a question or not, please don't hesitate to call us. Thank you. John, over to you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, ma'am, for allowing me to participate again this evening. I look forward to any of them in the future. I am also, as not just the Assistant Regional Manager for the Central Region, I am also a Veteran Service Representative for the Benefits Department for the Virginia Department of Veteran Services. Our main function is to be your advocate between you and the VA. We are basically the go-between person. We assist veterans and their family members with filing claims to the VA. All of our representatives are accredited, and we do everything electronically. What that means for you as a veteran is that means your paperwork would get into the VA a lot faster, and it means it's going to get adjudicated a little bit faster than most claims. All of our services are free of charge, and we're here to support you and your families. Just let us know what we can do for you. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much for your opening comments, and we're going to go right to the phones here. We have got William from Spotsylvania on the line with us right now. William, you are on live with Congresswoman Spanberger. What is on your mind this evening?
Good evening. Thank you for taking my call. I was wondering what the status is of the VA clinic in Fredericksburg, and are they, on target, on budget, which probably the federal government never does. But when could we anticipate seeing that place open? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. I'll start out. And I don't know if either of you have additional comments. So just a number of months ago, probably about 6 months ago, I toured the construction site. I have worked through my congressional office to help ensure that there's additional funding for road expansions that lead up to the location of that VA facility. And so we were out touring some of the infrastructure changes that will be necessary to kind of meet the flow of traffic and people, but also to tour the initial construction. It's an extraordinary facility. It is still very, very much under construction. And I'd be happy to get the details of the estimated timeframes. When I was there, they were on schedule, but still, it's a pretty massive facility, and it was some time for it. But I'd be happy to get the information related to what the expected time frame is and send that out in my newsletter. Gentlemen, I don't know if you have any other up-to-date information about the construction.
No,
No,
ma'am,
ma'am,
I
no.
don't. The only thing I would like to add, ma'am, is that we will have an office in the VA hospital, and we have already hired the representatives to man that office, so they will be fully trained by the time that building opens.
That's fantastic. So then people, just so that everybody on the line, John, knows what it is that you're saying fully. So that means someone can walk into that hospital, they can go into your office, meet with someone, file that claim electronically, and have it processed immediately with the assistance.
You're correct, ma'am.
Great. That's fantastic. William, we'll get dates out. If you want to leave us with the phone number, we can follow up specific to your question on the time frame. But we'll provide an overall update in our newsletter as well at the end of the week in case others are curious about the time frame there.
All right, thank you. As a reminder, this forum is interactive and we'd love to hear your questions. If you do have a question, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time to get in the queue to ask a question. A member of Congresswoman Spanberger's staff will collect your question. You can also ask a question by submitting one through the portal below our online streaming player at spanberger.house.gov. Again, that's spanberger.house.gov/live. If you're watching on Facebook Live tonight and wish to ask Congresswoman Spanberger a question, we encourage you to visit that online streaming portal so you can submit your question there. Right now, we're going to go back to the phones, and we have got Bob on the line with us. Bob, welcome to tonight's forum. You are on live with Congresswoman Spanberger. What is on your mind this evening?
Hello, thanks for taking the call. I just had a question regarding military readiness with regards to current recruiting status, as I know many people on this call are probably veterans. I'm just curious, with ongoing events around the world, how ready are we to take forth any multiple continent actions against these aggressions, and why should we trust this administration going forward?
Bob, thank you so much for this question. Gentlemen, I think this falls within the federal purview, so I'll go ahead and take this one unless you would like to add anything based on your experiences. So the question about military readiness, this is a major priority issue for Congress from an oversight function. What is our readiness capacity? How is recruiting going, training, everything from personnel to our equipment and our abilities there. So I do not serve on the Armed Services Committee. I serve on the House Intelligence Committee and the Agriculture Committee. But given that the National Defense Authorization Act is an annual exercise in pulling all members of Congress together to work on the priorities of keeping our country safe through ensuring authorizations and funding of our military programs. While I don't serve on that committee, this is an area of focus of mine. So there's a couple components. You mentioned ongoing efforts throughout the world. Certainly, the United States continues to be an important ally and leader in supporting our Ukrainian allies as they continue to fight for their freedom. The role that the United States has played has been one of leadership, pulling together from the very earliest days our fellow partners, predominantly European, but also throughout the world, in levying sanctions and providing aid, communications aid, information aid. and certainly lethal aid. Some of that aid has come from the United States. Much of it has also been facilitated by lethal and non-lethal aid that has gone from our partners onward to Ukraine. And there is a constant review of our engagement as it relates to Ukraine, and our focus also on our own readiness. So I feel very confident that our work to ensure that we're supporting our partners is has significant oversight to ensure that we are also maintaining our own level of preparedness in the event that some event were to occur that would require our own utilization of some of the same types of equipment and items that we are either facilitating or moving on to Ukraine ourselves. From an overall standpoint, I have been focused on issues related to, recruitment at the very early stages of one's career into the military, and have been meeting with related organizations that kind of study pipeline of individuals who might be onward looking to join the military. And there are some challenges that we as a country face. There's an interesting and important organization called Mission Readiness that does a lot of advocacy related to child nutrition, related to education, related to physical fitness, because far too many young people aged 17 to 25 are not eligible to join the military if they were to want to, because of health issues, because of weight issues, or because of challenges and run-ins with the criminal justice system that render them ineligible. So in a grand scheme of things, there are multiple elements of places where I'm looking for how can we ensure that from a larger national security perspective, we are putting all of the components in place to ensure our own readiness long into the future. And that means including that elementary school kids who one day might be future military leaders themselves have a path to take that route of service if they so choose. I will say that on a very personal level, being able to see students go through the process, as is a congressional responsibility, of applying towards our service academies is always a very heartening exercise each year to see extraordinary young people that want to devote their lives to service and want to begin that through an education at a service academy. We are already getting, we've put out our nominations, but we're already getting confirmed appointments across the 7th District, which is certainly, I think, a point of pride for the region. But overall, back to your question, Bob, our level of readiness in terms of what it is that we are developing, what it is that we are spending our resources on, I feel quite confident that the oversight is there. And then notably, I have just yesterday spent time with some individuals from Space Force who work in the 7th District, talking about the capacity and the capabilities that they bring to future planning and development and research. And so I'm being a little bit vague on that, given their mission, but all that to say that from a hyper-local perspective here in the 7th District, and then from a large-scale perspective in terms of global readiness and what our capacity is, I am focused on this issue, and we should always be reviewing. We should always be have a critical eye to make sure that we're prepared for whatever threats may be out there. But certainly, our support of our Ukrainian allies, chief among them, is one place where we're looking to ensure that support and also ensure that that we are maintaining our own readiness. At this point, I feel confident that's the case.
You're taking part in a live interactive town hall forum with Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger. Next up, we're going to go to Ron in Stafford. Ron, you're on live with Congresswoman Spanberger. What is your question this evening?
Hey, Abigail, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I got 2 questions for you. I own a small business in Stafford County, Virginia, and I mean, we're running into some hard times, so we're looking for a little help from SBA, but if you own a brand new truck, they're not going to help you out too much. And my other question to you is, we're helping all these other countries. When are we going to be able to help our own? that's where I have the hardest time. And if you can
Right.
help me out with that a little bit, I mean, I'm talking about our own states, our own counties. I mean, there's a lot of people that can't afford to do anything, and we're sending billions of dollars to other countries. We got wide open borders. How do we feed the millions of people that are crossing right now when we can't even help the ones that are here now?
So, to touch on your question related to the SBA issue, and I'll just remind everyone on the call, if you're having any challenges with a federal agency, if you've applied for any programs with a federal agency, I mean, everything from SBA to the VA to you need your passport reviewed or renewed, please be in touch with our office. We can file an inquiry and we can ensure that we can track your case as it's going through. So that's specific to you, Ron. We want to make sure we have your contact information so we can follow up. But you were talking about the challenges that we're facing at the border and the challenges that we face as a country. And certainly, I was just with the Prince William Police Department yesterday, where we were talking about, among other things, the challenges that they're seeing, like so many other localities throughout the 7th District and beyond, with fentanyl. We know fentanyl is predominantly coming through ports of entry. And because of the lethality of fentanyl, it is far easier to conceal large amounts, or at least highly fatal amounts of fentanyl in trucks and concealment devices coming across the border. And what we know to be true is that our Border Patrol agents just do not have technology that is as advanced as it should be. And so I led a legislative effort. My legislation passed through the House. It was bipartisan, passed the House, passed the Senate, was signed into law by President Biden to really push Homeland Security to invest in advanced technologies that would assist their capacities along the border. We also, in the last year's appropriations, which were ultimately assigned into law in December, increased funding so that Border Patrol can hire more people, because you're right, Ron. They do face significant challenges, and there's challenges that we have to invest through. It's technology when we're going after the transnational criminal organizations that are trying to bring drugs across the border that ultimately lead to the deaths of Americans here at home, but that also enrich those transnational criminal organizations to the tune of billions of dollars a year. And my background before I came to Congress, I was a CIA case officer, and I worked issues related to narco trafficking and issues related to this very thing. Also ensuring that Border Patrol agents have our staffing up, certainly at a level where they can handle and be able to contend with individuals who are crossing into the United States who wish to come to our country. And so those are areas where I have been focused. I recognize the challenges that you're raising. We continue to face real issues here at home. Inflation, while we certainly have seen a downward trajectory, is still higher than any of us want it to be. And that impacts everything from our experiences at the grocery store to the gas station. And it certainly impacts small business owners, as they're not only feeling the prices going up on some of the items and the stock and inventory they're bringing in, but it's impacting the spending behaviors of their potential customers. So I hear you loud and clear on issues related specifically to the challenges we're facing at the border. I have been aggressive on this, and I mentioned the bill that was signed into law by President Biden. But in my first term in Congress, I was proud that I had bipartisan legislation focused on going after those transnational criminal organizations that traffic in drugs and traffic people, and that was signed into law by former President Trump. There is still much more to be done, but we are taking some steps in the right direction, and certainly I'm proud to have led some of those.
All right, thank you for your question, Ron. We're going to go back to Spotsylvania now. We've got Irene on the line. Irene, you're live with Congresswoman Spanberger. What's your question this evening?
Good evening, Congresswoman Spanberger. My question is, how do I access or gain access to military records? My ex-husband was in the Marine Corps. He was exposed to Agent Orange, and he also was stationed at Camp Lejeune, and he subsequently got cancer. And I need, I guess, access to his records in order to see if I can make a claim in my daughter's behalf.
Irene, thank you for this question. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'll want to make sure that our team has your contact information so that we can support you as well. But then I'm going to open it up. I think this might be a good one for the gentleman on the call if they want to add anything.
Good evening, Miss Irene. Thank you for your question. There's two-part answer to that. If your husband filed a claim before, you have to contact the VA, because once the claim is submitted, the VA pulls those records as part and becomes part of their federal file. If your husband has never filed a claim before, then you have to contact the National Archives and submit a request. And if you ensure you provide Congresswoman Spanberger your contact information, and when they send it to me, I will definitely email you some information on how to request those records. If you need further assistance, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you facilitate obtaining those records. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
As a reminder, this forum is interactive and we'd love to hear your questions. If you do have a question, you can press *3 on your keypad at any time to get in the queue to ask a question. A member of Congresswoman Spanberger's staff will collect your question. You can also ask a question by submitting one through the portal below our online streaming player at spanberger.house.gov. Again, that's spanberger.house.gov/live. And if you're watching on Facebook Live tonight and wish to ask Congresswoman Spanberger a question, we encourage you to visit that online streaming portal so you can submit your question there. Next up, we have got Robert in Standardsville. Robert, you are now online with Congresswoman Spanberger. What is your question this evening?
Okay, my question. Oh, thanks for taking my call. My question is concerning Tricare. In late 2022, and I'm Tricare eligible, I went to like a local pharmacy. I couldn't get a flu shot or a COVID shot because they were having contract issues. Did they ever straighten out their issues with all the local pharmacies for Tricare eligible people? And I'm not near a military installation.
Robert, this is a circumstance that so many Virginians are facing, particularly those who, like you, do not live close to a military installation or a VA hospital. And I have done a lot of work on this because it is so consistently something, particularly veterans in our rural communities are bringing to me. Really, this is a challenge where local pharmacies are getting cut out of the system, and it's really, truly impacting Tricare. Have you tried pursuing your prescriptions via the mail? I don't know if we're still connected to Robert.
Oh, I did get my vaccinations through my local doctor. I do get prescriptions through the mail.
Okay.
But my concern is if I have like an immediate need for something.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to have to, if I really need something, I'm going to have to go out of pocket or drive. I think my closest facility may be Fort Lee, which is an hour and a half away from my house.
Yeah, and that is too far for you to be going if you're needing to get a flu shot. So what I would like to do, Robert, the answer is this continues to be a consistent issue for veterans across our district. I want to make sure we have your contact information because we are tracking the experiences of veterans across our district. But if Ben or John, if you would have anything to add, I'll turn it over to you in the event that you do. But Robert, I'm sorry, I have done a lot of advocacy, harangued Tricare on this issue. But this is a really significant issue, again, particularly for veterans in more rural or distant areas, also for those who are disabled, who don't have access to transportation. And even if it is closer, are still unable to get themselves to other locations.
Robert, this is Ben. I do not claim to be an expert in this issue, but we have run into this. People trying to access care or access medications in locations, and then Tricare is really not an option or not understood by the local facilities. While we are not experts, I feel reasonably confident that we can find the people who are. There are actually certain offices and individual staff and actually whole teams spun up to help people navigate Tricare, particularly when they're far away from a base or a flagpole. Provided we have your information, I'll gladly reach out and try to connect you with as many resources as I can to help you find a more immediate fix in your area. Because there's a lot of people in your situation. You're right north of Charlottesville. There's a lot of military, including hidden military in the Charlottesville area. I know there are some options available. It's just a matter of tracking on what those are. I'm very happy to assist.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Okay. So do you need my information? I can give you what information you need as far as contact information.
Robert, what we'll do is we'll connect you with Ben. So we'll make sure that my team has your information before you hang up, and we'll connect you with Ben tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
And if anyone else is in a similar circumstance, please give our office a call, and we're happy to make the connections. Again, I continue to work on this issue from a federal perspective to get answers. I have reached out to the Defense Health Agency. I have not received any answer about how they're going to address the ongoing pharmacy issues. So I'm trying to get answers there from a federal perspective, but that's why we have these two gentlemen on the phone, because they're also fantastic about supporting and making sure that we can get resources locally as well.
All right. Thank you very much for your question, Robert. Next up, we're going to go to Jesse on the phone. Jesse, you are live with Congresswoman Spanberger. What is your question this evening?
Hi, good evening. Thanks for taking my call, and I really appreciate you facilitating this. My question is regarding the bill and its impact on our district. When can we start seeing infrastructure update for our area, and what's that going to look like? What's the timeline? What are the projects that are going to be targeted?
Jesse, your phone blipped out for just a second, but I'm quite sure you said the infrastructure bill. So I'm going to start answering that question. Is that correct?
Correct, and how that impacts our.
So with the infrastructure bill, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that was passed through the House, Senate, signed into law, that program is that bill is getting put into place in a variety of different ways. Some of it is funding programs that are already in existence, that already work towards road improvement, bridge improvement, waterways, electrical grid infrastructure. And so some of those dollars will be delivered to the states for them to allocate towards projects. And so just recently, a number of months back, I was touring in Fredericksburg the Falmouth Bridge, where I was out there with the Virginia Department of Transportation bridge engineers, where they were walking through some of the bridge projects that now, because of those infrastructure dollars, are kind of moving up the time frame for getting not just repairs of bridges that are in dire need of repair, such as that particular example, but also bridges that, if we could do a little bit of preventative maintenance, might not get to the point where they're in poor condition. This bill overall for Virginia, what it's going to deliver, it's more than $500 million for bridge replacement and repairs. And that work will be done through the Virginia Department of Transportation with those federal dollars flowing to the states. It's going to be more than $700 million for pipes and water infrastructure. And much of that, again, will be flowing through the state for localized projects. There's also federal grant dollars that will be available that communities and localities can apply for. There's $7 billion for highway repairs throughout the state. And then importantly, Virginia, like so many other states, will be receiving millions of dollars, 100 million in our case, for additional broadband connectivity. Virginia has been in a strong place in our trajectory towards broadband connectivity across the Commonwealth. We have the VADI program, which is a state level program that is allocated, particularly after the American Rescue Plan. The former governor allocated significant funds from the American Rescue Plan towards the VADI program and towards continuing our efforts to get broadband connectivity across the rest of the Commonwealth. And the infrastructure bill will really push us across the finish line on that. There's more than $1 billion in public transportation dollars. And so that money will be allocated locality to locality, depending on the projects that are there. And then there's investments in the expansion of electric vehicle charging networks, and that will be kind of community to community, those dollars delivered. So to get back to the kind of the core of your question, when are we going to start seeing these improvements locally across the 7th? We've already delivered federal dollars related to airports locally in Virginia, federal grant dollars to reduce congestion, and we already see the bridge engineers are out allocating and scheduling repairs across Virginia. So that work is now starting to be underway, and those dollars, much of which the dollars that will ultimately come to Virginia, many of those dollars have started flowing to the state.
You're taking part in a live interactive town hall forum with Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger. We're going to take a break from the phones just for a moment and go to an online question. This comes from Eric, Congresswoman, and first of all, he says, thank you for your work on the PAC Act. What initiatives are in process to hold the VA claims process to follow its own rules? One of the many issues in the VA denied service connection for a chronic respiratory illness in November 2022, despite the PAC Act.
December of 2022. Okay. Well, for starters, I want to make sure, I know you asked a question online, but please contact our office because we'll want to follow up specific to your claim. It is my understanding right now, and I'll ask if John or Ben want to provide any additional information. The VA right now, because of the PAC Act, which I think was an incredibly important piece of legislation, incredibly valuable to veterans who face toxic exposure through their service, be it in Iraq, Afghanistan, or in Vietnam. The reality is that we have now extended the possibility for millions of American veterans to have their service-connected illness and disability honored, respected, and frankly, for them to be able to receive benefits for that, which has put tremendous strain on the VA as they are beginning the process of receiving and processing claims. So if anyone has received a denial that they think was an error given the PAC Act, or if anyone has received a denial or any challenges with the VA, please be in touch with the office. But we do know that there are real challenges that they are facing at this time. I don't say that to make an excuse because I am proud of the legislation that we put in place. But I will say that there are certainly growing pains with it. As expansive and as important as the legislation was, it has really expanded the scope of what is now considered to be service connected. And we are seeing real challenges with people as they are filing their claims. John, Ben, would you want to add anything to that based on your experiences?
Yes, ma'am. What I'm seeing, when the PAC Act was first passed, the VA was denying claims, and what we were doing was just submitting a high-level review to ask the VA to relook at that claim because of the PAC Act. They would relook at it and adjudicate the claim in favor of the veteran. So, Eric, my recommendation to you is contact one of our offices and ask them to assist you in doing a high-level review. With that, you can't submit any new medical evidence, but the VA will relook at it as that will they'll look at it using the PACT Act law because they are adjudicating within that boundaries now. So just feel free to contact one of our offices. We'll be more than happy to help. Thank you.
So, John, just to make sure that any other veterans who might be in a similar circumstance, that you have been contending with and supporting veterans who have been denied, but then with a high level review based on the somewhat recent passage of the PAC Act, those individuals have had a favorable review after that high level, a favorable adjudication after the high level review.
You are correct, ma'am. We've even assisted spouses of deceased veterans whose DIC claim was previously denied. We've actually assisted them in resubmitting that claim due to the new PACT Act, and their claims are also coming back in a positive favor, and they're also being taken care of by the VA now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, John, for that work. And again, anyone listening, if you fall into that category, if that's your circumstance, as a veteran yourself, or the spouse of a deceased veteran, or a veteran who's been denied, please contact our office. We'll assist, and where John can do his best, we'll make sure that we're connecting you with him so he can work his VA magic, if I may say, John.
No problem, ma'am.
All right, thank you for that online question, Eric. We're going to go back to the phones now, and we have got Herbert in Woodbridge. Herbert, you're now on live with Congresswoman Spanberger. What's on your mind this evening?
I'm a 100% disabled veteran, and I'm looking at my age. I'm 69. I'm in excellent shape. I did have surgery just recently, but I'm running into issues with discrimination because of age. I don't know. I don't understand why. That's how I view the President of the United States. He's got age, but he has wisdom. I've been observing how he's been handling himself internationally around the world. I'm very proud of America, that we have a mature individual who got experience and wisdom, and age do matter, and it can benefit. Similar to myself, looking for a job, I'm running into these situations where people, there's a generation of people who had developed a mentality that people that were older, that they were outdated. So they established that growing up, even how they looked at their parents. They knew more than their parents. So we have that generation today that's in control of certain things. But I need some help with that. I'm going to get the information from our office. I have a degree. I'm 69. I had surgery, and I'm in great shape. And I'm just looking forward to maintaining and continuing to working just like the president and other people, and utilizing my skill and my experience. I think that I'll offer an employee more ability, knowledge, and fortitude than I ever have because of the experience that I had. And I'm very thankful, very proud of the United States of America. And I'm very proud of those Congress people out there who are on the job and trying to do things, get things done, and to carry the business on in this country. And as far as the engaging in Ukraine, I served time over in Europe. I know the respect that the Europeans had for me as a soldier when I was over in Germany and all about NATO. And they are very, very proud of the American people. They count on the American people. And we cannot, I heard a gentleman say something about we just need to focus here. We have to focus around the world. This is a global world. And we have to build our defenses overseas. Whoever that made that statement, we have to be abroad in order to be the defense of the United States. We can't be an isolation nation. And I'm very proud of America and how our president demonstrated himself over there. And also, I'm proud of the Congress people and, the Congress lady and all of them. They got stuff done. They had a lot of people to try to block them. They only got I heard it say bipartisan, but very few Republicans went with you guys on this infrastructure. Very few of them voted with you guys, you Democrats who got all this stuff done. I'm not taking anything away. They need to join in with you more. But everybody want to be at the ribbon signings and the ribbon cuttings, and they didn't do anything. So I just want to share that. But I do need the number and information that I can get. I need some help on help me get employed. Like I said, I got an advanced degree. I have a lot of skill, a lot of experience, more than any youngster coming out of college. From where I've traveled in life. And so if I can get some information who to call, I would like to get
Perfect.
that.
Well, I'm gonna start by just making a couple comments, and then Ben, I think this is one that I'm gonna turn over to you, sir. I want to just say thank you so much for um, your comments. Certainly, I thank you for your comments related to U.S. global leadership. I believe very deeply that the United States is in a position of goodness and greatness because of the role of global leadership that we have historically taken on. It's one that we have taken on when we're upholding our values of freedom and democracy, and certainly we're doing just that as we are leading our global partners and our NATO partners in support of the Ukrainians in their fight for their freedom. So thank you for your comments. You are correct about the infrastructure bill. It is called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, but it was carried over the finish line predominantly by a group of people committed to governing and investing in ourselves. To your point, which is incredibly important, investing in ourselves while also demonstrating global leadership. We'll make sure that we have your contact information so we can connect you with Ben, but I want to give Ben the chance to comment a little bit more about what it is that his organization can offer veterans like you and anyone else who might have kind of felt a kinship as you were talking about your experiences looking for employment as a veteran.
Thank you, ma'am. Herbert, there's a saying that says something along the lines of the young get their wisdom from the old, and the old get their energy from the young. It sounds like, though, that you have both energy and wisdom both. So I'd say you're sitting pretty. So to answer your question regarding employment, we are not an employment resource or employment agency ourselves, but we work very closely with organizations and services, both state, federal, local, and sort of everything in between, that are happy to assist you. And actually, we do have an employment element to our program, to our agency, in the form of Virginia Values Veterans. Throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, there are businesses that want to hire veterans. And one of the things the Department of Veteran Services has said is, you want to hire veterans, prove it. How many are you going to hire this year? And we are going to help you promote your job placement. Well, I guess your openings. We are going to help you understand some of the nuances of working with veterans, primarily the many benefits of hiring veterans and having them part of your workforce. So the Virginia Values Veterans Initiative, if you will, is tracking well over 2,000 employers in the Commonwealth who have specifically indicated their interest and willingness and intention to hire veterans all the time. So I would like to connect you with all the resources that are outside the agency, as well as the organizations or elements within the agency that are working towards employment, although we are not an employment program or agency ourselves. So very happy to assist you. And with someone with your energy and gumption, I think there's something out there waiting for you, and we're hope to help arrange the introduction, if you will. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that question, Herbert. And just as a quick reminder, this is a forum that is interactive, and we'd love to hear your questions. If you do have a question, you can still press *3 on your keypad at any time to get in the queue to ask a question. A member of Congresswoman Spanberger's staff will collect your question, and you can also ask a question by submitting one through the portal below our online streaming player at spanberger.house.gov. Again, that's spanberger.house.gov/live. And if you're watching on Facebook Live tonight and wish to ask a question, we encourage you to visit that online streaming portal so you can submit your question there. We're going to go back to the phones. We've got Sylvia in Spotsylvania. Sylvia, you are online now with Congresswoman Spanberger. What is your question?
Good evening, Congresswoman Spanberger. Nice
Good evening.
To meet you. My question is about the Agent Orange, what you was talking about, when y'all had passed the PAC Act.
Yes.
So, and my brother was in the Army during that time. He did 20 years, and he contacted that Agent Orange. So, but I'm not sure whether he filed a claim back then or not. But I would like information to give to him and his wife to file to see what happens for them, because he got it real bad when he was in the Army. Like I said, been on the front line. I think that was the branch that was on, at least one of the branches that was on the line during that time. And he contacted that real bad. He had all the blisters and the sores
and
Oh
stuff
no.
on his body. So I would like information so I can give to him and his wife to file to see what happens for them.
Thank you so much for this question. And I'm going to see if one of the gentlemen on the line want to take it, because as I understand it, the question is, what can your brother do now? He was exposed during Vietnam. You're not sure of the paperwork that they have or haven't filed. So what steps come next? John, would you like to take this one?
Yes, ma'am. I'll take this one. Good evening, Miss Sylvia, and thank you for your question. Excuse me. Um, according due to the passage of the PACT Act, there's only 2 additional presumptive conditions that was added to the original list. There's a list about 8 or 10 from previous. My recommendation to you is ensure that Congresswoman Spanberger has your contact information. Once I get it, I will definitely reach out to you, and I will be more than happy to send you information on what we call a presumptive disability. For those on the line, a presumptive disability is where the VA has recognized that if you were in, we use Vietnam right now due to Agent Orange, if you were exposed to Agent Orange, then there are certain side effects of the exposure. Being exposed is not the disability, it's the side effects of that exposure. And even though you were not in Vietnam in the hot zone, but you can prove that you were exposed to Agent Orange by one of the other locations, you definitely can file a claim for disability with the VA. And we'll be more than happy to help your brother or anyone online do that. Just please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
And again, you can contact us at our office, spanberger.house.gov. You can reach out to us or call us in our office, and we can connect you with John. We can assist you in your inquiries, and we can connect you with John as well in his office.
All right, thank you very much for that question, Sylvia. Next up, we're going to go to Dr. Gavis in Prince William County. Dr. Gavis, you're on live and welcome to the forum. What's on your mind tonight?
Hi, good evening, and thank you for taking my call. I'm one of the Veterans Commissioners here in Prince William County, and so I have 2 questions for you. One of the issues that we constantly get is for transportation for veterans and getting them to appointments and things like that. And so there are a couple of organizations here who've been trying to get our veterans to these appointments, and I'm just trying to find out if there's any type of funding or if you guys have talked about how or if we can get these veterans to their different appointments, because they go down to Washington, D.C., and some have appointments in Richmond. And of course, nonprofit organizations who are trying to take care of the transportation issue is essentially running out of money to get these veterans to their appointments. And so, we're just trying to see how we can tackle this issue. And then the other issue I have, or a question that I have, is in reference to food insecurity. Of course, it's one of the top issues that the military is looking at right now. Here in Prince William County, we have one of the highest food insecurity rates, and so just trying to see if there's any attention given to food insecurity across the state, but in particular here in Prince William County. Thank you for taking my call again.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna begin with some of the macro federal elements, and then open it up to Ben or John to comment. So the 2 questions relate to food insecurity and transportation. Both of these issues are issues that I get direct outreach to my office about regularly. As it pertains to food insecurity, I serve on the Agriculture Committee. And so we have legislative purview over our food security programs, SNAP, WIC, school lunch programs. And those are programs that are incredibly, incredibly vital. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate that any person would need access to food security programs, but Unfortunately, we know that many of Virginia's veterans and veterans across the country, and in fact, some active duty service members rely on food security programs, particularly when times get tough. From a federal perspective, we have oversight of these programs. I am working on various different types of flexibility. As an example, someone and legislatively, this is something that's a priority for me. Someone, if they're spending their SNAP dollars to feed their family, if they walk into a grocery store and there's a rotisserie chicken, they should be able to use those SNAP dollars to buy a rotisserie chicken. Certainly, right now, there are current constraints on those federal support dollars that prohibit that. And there's, I would call them kind of archaic or antiquated elements to the provisions within those food security programs that really put a lot of hurdles in the way of people who are trying to do right by their families and themselves. Locally, within Prince William County, there are many local organizations. And if you want to be in touch with our office, we can try and connect you locally to make sure there's other resources that you can direct veterans and those that you might be working with towards. But certainly, from a federal perspective, I work with the food banks across Virginia, and certainly hear them out on their concerns and challenges because it informs my work legislatively. And then I'll open it up to the gentlemen if they have any comments related to transportation to the VA or for food security issues or local resources.
Dr. Gaddis, thank you for your question. You have raised the $1 million question that no one has a really easy answer to, particularly with transportation. The funding is out there, it drives it pretty quickly. And I mean, whether you're driving 100 miles to an appointment or sitting in traffic for 100 minutes, you have to have transportation to get there. And while the VA does, of course, reimburse for scheduled appointments, if you don't have a car, you can't get there. So I would say that case by case, our organization can sometimes propose some suggestions, not necessarily to provide transportation, but perhaps link to individuals or small groups who are willing to essentially adopt a person versus adopt a program. But another option that may be worth considering, again, on a case by case basis, is if the VA has scheduled you for an appointment 75 miles away at a VA medical center, it's oftentimes a very easy question to ask: can I be referred to care in the community? And it's an issue of medical or patient advocacy. And if you ask the right questions and you have attendant providers, you can oftentimes be routed to a much closer provider who's able to provide comparable care much closer to home. So even if there is a transportation barrier, you're more likely to be able to get a loved one, a family member, a neighbor to get you that shorter distance than driving really to the other end of the state or some other lengthy distance to get to your appointment, specifically within the VA healthcare system. So I would love to talk about that further, and really, I guess, explore the right verbiage for successful advocacy within VA healthcare system for that. As far as food insecurity goes, we acknowledge, obviously, that veterans are human beings too, and something they may struggle with, maybe simply a human issue or humanitarian issue versus something that is specific to the fact that they served in the military. That could be very incidental. So one of my jobs is to make sure that I and all my team members know about every resource out there that is available to support a human being in any community. And that includes food banks. That includes food pantries, whether they be small mom and pop operations or large productions. So case by case, please refer your veterans to Virginia Veteran and Family Support Program and their families, and we'll do everything we can to connect them with the right resource in their community. And again, try to overcome both these transportation barriers and medical advocacy issues, as well as food insecurity. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And that's going to bring us to the end of our Q&A section of tonight's telephone town hall. So with that, I'd like to turn the floor back over to Congresswoman Spanberger for some final thoughts.
Thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. I also want to thank Ben Shaw and John Henry for joining us as well to bring their expertise and experience to this conversation. To everyone who's joined tonight, I hope that the overarching element of this discussion is please be in touch with our office. We will work to connect you with the resources that are available in the community, either through DVS or other organizations. And for those who are pursuing claims with the VA or any other federal agency, we are here to serve and connect and support you. in that. So please contact our office. We send out a weekly newsletter for those who are newer constituents to the 7th District, and a weekly newsletter where we give updates and resources. I encourage you to sign up for that at spanberger.house.gov. And we will periodically do veterans focused town halls when the gentlemen are able to join, so that we can make sure that I can speak from a legislative perspective on some of the issues that are before us, and they can speak to the issues from what they're seeing through their organizations and their support efforts. So anyone who has called tonight, where we've said we were going to put you in touch with Ben or with John, we will make sure that we make those connections for you this week. And certainly for anyone else who's listened and heard echoes of their own challenge in someone else's question, please be in touch with our office, and we'll make sure that we're getting you the support that you need, either through our office or through what's available at the state level and local level. But again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for the privilege of representing you in Congress. And gentlemen, Ben, John, thank you for all that you do to serve the veteran community. Certainly thank you for your service, and thank you for being a part of this evening's discussion. You bring so much value, and I truly, truly appreciate it. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
All right, that brings us to the end of this evening's event. Thank you for taking the time to join us on this important veteran-focused telephone town hall with Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger. We appreciate the opportunity to answer your questions, but if we were not able to get to your question this evening, you can call our office again at 202-225-2815 during normal business hours, or go to spanberger.house.gov. Thank you again, stay safe, and have a great evening.